The Science of Storytelling by Will Storr. Narrated by James Clamp. Introduction. We know how this ends. You're going to die. And so will everyone you love. And then there will be heat death. All the change in the universe will cease. The stars will die. And there'll be nothing left of anything but infinite, dead, freezing void. Human life in all its noise and hubris will be rendered meaningless for eternity. But that's not how we live our lives. Humans might be in unique possession of the knowledge that our existence is essentially meaningless, but we carry on as if in ignorance of it. We beetle away happily into our minutes, hours, and days, with the fact of the void hovering over us. To look directly into it and respond with an entirely rational descent into despair is to be diagnosed with a mental health condition, categorized as somehow faulty. The cure for the horror is story. Our brains distract us from this terrible truth by filling our lives with hopeful goals.
All right, check,
and
one,
encouraging
two.
us to strive for them. What we want and the ups and
All right, what's going on, everybody? Justin Thomas from Top Shelf Fandom here. That was from Will Storr's The Science of Storytelling. We're going to kind of do like a little bit of, I talk about these books a lot in almost anything I ever do, you'll hear me rant about whichever Audible listen that I'm currently on. And I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a catch-up stream because I had to take a little bit of time off. And yeah, I'm not having an existential breakdown here. I just wanted to, I love the beginning of that one right there because it really just drives home like the importance of story and so forth. But we're going to be mostly focusing on Lisa Cron's story genius. But yeah, I just want to say what's up to House of Conqueror here, Danny McKay, Sunflower Bath, we have OTDA, the oldest pastime in human history is storytelling. It's been shaping us since the start. Yeah, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about. I think that there's a lot of always discussion within the fandom about why we are so obsessed with fictional story, and the types of literature that I enjoy are stories about story, but more specifically, more recently, it's been the cognitive function that allows us to absorb and consume and digest story, and what really has shaped my opinion and my view on what is good subjectively or objectively, what is bad per se, and how much story really affects us. And more so, it's not that we use story as just an example of some things. We literally will go to story more often in our lives than we will go to other, like, say you need to understand how something happens. You think, okay, remember your first date? What did you do? Did you think, what did my mom or dad do on their first date? No, you didn't do that. Maybe you went to a friend. You likely went to a television show or a film in your head, and you actually broke down the scenario through that process. Story is like food. We digest it. Not a lot of people know the exact, way in which we digest every little bit, meaning the details and all that. But we eat food, and food tastes good because food keeps us alive. We consume story like A Song of Ice and Fire, like Westworld, all the things that we cover here on Top Shelf Fandom. We consume it, and it doesn't seem like it's like that supplemental. It doesn't seem like it's like that educational because we are pre-programmed to survive by consuming it. Just as certain berries don't taste good that you eat because they're poisonous, you actually enjoy food that's good for you because it keeps you alive. So we have actually, come to this place in our evolution as storytelling animals, and John Goshel should be up there as well. So I'll go through a few of these books, but we'll definitely break down a few of it and dispel some rumors and talk a little bit about story theory in story templates, because I think that that's important to really distinguish between. And I myself started off reading a lot of these books. This is kind of, let me see if I get a better, I think this might be a better view, of looking to become a better writer myself. And now I more so read these types of books to actually understand fandom better and understand like the things that we do in the community in which we have, because we're also very connected, right? Anybody that's ever been to a con can tell you that maybe you've never met any of these people before, but you feel like your best fucking friends and you've never seen them before because you're connected through these significant stories. And it's all about just not just using story, and art is imitating life. It is literally, story is the secret decoder ring to life, and we decode it through it. We cite story to understand what's happening because we want to know why, not what. And I'll use some examples from like Game of Thrones and so forth to say, like, and I'm gonna make some blanket statements, people. Make some blanket statements here, and I'm not gonna be an apologist or anything like that, but I'm gonna use some oversimplifications, but of instances in which we were disappointed, and there's a clear reason why and a clear flaw, and it's much easier said than done. But I will cite which ones to go to. So first off, let's talk about the books. We got my favorite by far is John Truby's Anatomy of the Story. That is not available on Audible. I have my Audible link in the information below. Please use it. It is it's useful financially for the money. But yeah, it's a free trial. You don't even have to keep it. Keep that between me and you. You can just use it. But John Truby's The Anatomy of the Story, I find, is the most helpful breakdown for those looking to write. Robert McKay's story is one of the most entertaining, as well as one of the most interesting and informative books. But this is a old crotchety old man. If anybody's ever seen Adaption, it has Nicolas Cage, and I believe, what's his name? He's a Scottish actor. He's in Succession. He plays, it's Brian Cox plays, pretty much it is Robert McKay. This guy has, taught so many Oscar-winning screenwriters how to, write, and yet has had minimal, slim to no success himself in the actual process of getting things, made in the films and adapted himself. So he's a funny guy to listen to, and he's a great guy to listen to because he just will break shit down. He'll be like, the first Rambo was a story, and then Rambo stays because he narrates it himself, and he's all old and pissed. He's like, and then Rambo just stays Rambo, and it's fucking Rambo. It's no longer a story. It's just John Rambo continuing being Rambo for like the next 6 movies. It's more entertaining than that. But yeah. So then Save the Cat, Blake Snyder, is something that I recommend for people that are trying to construct the story. I know there's a lot of YouTubers recently that are endeavoring and going down that road of writing books, which good luck. It's a long road. Save the Cat is Blake Snyder. That is a gentleman that has passed away, unfortunately, but he went for more of the story structure other than story theory, meaning it's more of a template, like this should happen on page 18. So if you're looking to really write, go with that. Story Pitch is kind of a bad book. The only helpful thing about Story Pitch right here by Scott Kane is that if you are going to want to ever like better understand story, or more specifically better sell a story, or have an idea of what your story is, like if you're trying to contemplate a story and have a conception of what this idea is, you should pitch it to yourself first. Like, so you should like get a pitch. So understanding how to properly do like an elevator pitch or a pitch to a studio, or just a pitch in general, like to know what you need to hit on in a professional landscape, then yeah, Story Pitch. But besides that, the only worse, and the idea is only bigger, this isn't like sized up accordingly to how much I like them, is The Idea. That's not a great book at all, to be honest with you. That this guy wrote one episode of Band of Brothers, and if you ever want like a middling idea of like a true writer's room, it's kind of that book right there. And hey, hell, he's way more successful than me. But yeah, he's kind of like, yeah, there's not much to that one. But Dialogue by Robert McKay, John Truby, and then Robert McKay's Story are your best books right there as far as if you want to break down story. But talking about how fictional stories shape our lives, that's when you get into the cognitive function. That's when you get into the science of storytelling. That's when you get into story genius. That's when you get into the science, literally science of storytelling. And yeah, it's fantastic. So I really love to just sit back and listen to these books and just understand and consume all of these very scientific and like biological reasons for why we love and do what we do here in this fandom. But also it helps me when I'm looking at a show again and how I consume it and what I look for. And I'm about to use some Game of Thrones to say OTDA, the omniscient moderator there. Jess, what's going on? Smokeahonis. Good example of somebody you meet that you never met before and you feel like you're best friends. Wonderful human being right there. Omar, Omar is the smartest person on Reddit. All right, he's the smartest, and he's the best with Vikings, and he doesn't have a YouTube channel. And if he did, he'd put us all out of business, except for the Keen McKay. And Mackenzie L. Burns. Let's see. Yes, is Dolores in the middle. Yeah, and Mackenzie L. Burns is about to do a fantastic series and just talking about how we connect with story and how we use story for allegory, allegorical, in an allegorical sense for life. Mackenzie has been breaking down, I don't want to spoil it for you. I don't know. I should probably keep it a little bit shush. But yeah, you're doing the three queens story, and you're going through the actual history behind Margaret and the queens that are influenced Game of Thrones. So look forward to that because she's got a great connection there. But when we look at story, we often we think we're just looking to get answers for, our hero's journey or a template or something like that, like in Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is probably one of the most complex, as far as POVs go and as far as, multiple protagonists goes. But you really have a good understanding if you listen to Story Genius when it comes to what they're trying to convey. You kind of get an idea. And again, sorry for the blanket statements here, but after listening to this book twice, which, by the way, I got a book test. If you have like any physical books, it's always a better book if it looks like shit. Like this is a storytelling animal right here. Like you can see, it's got all my, like that's a book that's good because it looks like shit. This book is shit, so it looks pristine. The reason for God is just very frustrating, and I do this a lot, so that is what it is. But with Story Genius, it really turned me on to why people were so upset with the Dany situation, with Sansa's situation, with Jon's situation, and you're set up to ask why things are happening, not what happens. So a lot of the obvious frustration, the overt frustration, comes from things like the Night King. Okay, so the Night King is coming to fuck up Westeros, right? Why? Well, we don't get a why, do we? It's just they're evil. But it is there because it is pushing the narrative for other people, like the bastard Jon Snow, to realize his true actual parentage and, his rightful claim to a throne that he doesn't want anymore. And it pushes everybody to their actual internal arcs, because that's what's so great about George's work is he gives us not life from birth. We start at the middle of everybody's story almost, right? Almost everybody besides Rickon, we start at the middle of the story and we get a perspective about what they went through before, just like we do in real life. When you inquire about somebody, you inquire about what they've done, meaning, okay, so what's going on with your roommate that you say is a piece of shit? Okay, so they did this, they're messy, blah, blah, blah. Oh, where do they come from, right? You always want a backstory. George does that very brilliantly. So he gives us all of this, but he also, with the series at least, you don't have the books, give payout for some of the plot devices like Bran, who literally turns into kind of just a tunnel vision for that backstory, right? For those answers that we need for others. And then we get a payout of him being king. That's kind of disappointing because we don't feel connected to Bran, blah, blah, blah. Jon has went through a whole bunch of shit. He doesn't want to be a king, but he also doesn't want somebody to rule in a cruel way. Dany, we all relate to Dany, has done the right thing, not been paid off, right? But she also makes some bad decisions in one or two episodes. So blah, blah, blah. But we all can individually understand what these people do. And what we look for in story and what we look for in life, we look for change. We look for rhythm. We look for, meaning patterns of events. We look for causality. This leads to this, therefore, our but. Not this leads to this and then this happens. So it's always this happens, so this happens, thus this happens, and we jump back and forth. So the question that I came to after reading Story Genius twice is, do we really care about Westeros's actual feudalistic landscape? Meaning, like, yes, we, in theory, aren't terrible people, so we want them to what? All be happy, right? Meaning, like, the people. Meaning, the government, everything, to be ruled by a rightful king and our queen, blah, blah, blah. The people can be happy. But is that really what we care about? Is that really a happy ending? No. We care about what happened to the bastard that was really the royal. We care about what happened from the up-and-comer, from rags to riches, Dany. we wonder what's going on with Sansa, because to understand what's going on with the society, we have to understand how the society works. So Sansa's story thread works as a insight into what a feudalistic landscape looks like. So we all have these individual threads that are leading to a more primal feeling. The most important thing about story, it isn't these very detailed things. It's these more broad and applicable to everybody's life, because you might think, well, what do dragons have to do with me? Well, how many of you guys relate the dragons to maybe a pet, or maybe your kids, or maybe this or that? It doesn't matter. It's a primal feeling. It's a connection. It's a love, right? There is a sense of wanting to become better than your station in life, than your plight. There is all these very, very relatable aspects of that story that come to fruition. And I think that a lot of us get pissed off because you have an ending that is just like, okay, so the kingdom's going to be ran by a guy that's pretty much not the guy that we started with anyways, Bran. All these other people, some are dead. Obviously, a lot of people are pissed about that. Sansa had her own reasons for doing that, but it's hard to separate for a lot of people. So the point is, you have a lot of threads, you have a lot of causality that makes sense for the sentiment of the story, but not properly stuck. And if you look at a successful story, and you can have abstract stories that are about all these obscene things, the brain will still connect to it. That's what I love about these actual studies that show that when we are reading these stories, we are just as attached, and the same neurons are firing off that fire off when we're actually doing similar events. So if you were reading an action scene or watching an action scene, the brain activity, the cognitive activity, if it's actually being measured, is the same as if you're doing it. So you aren't reading Jane Eyre, you are Jane Eyre. You're not reading A Song of Ice and Fire, you are Jon, you are Jaime, you are Arya, you are Sansa, you are Catelyn, right? For better or worse. So it's this very immersive experience, and the suspension of disbelief isn't something that we decide on. It isn't something that we actually have agency over. It's something that's inherent within us. We don't have any other sources to go to. We can only make sense out of life through this medium. So when people get so upset about this or that, you have to understand that some people might relate to Sansa on a different level because they have a connection there. Some people with Dany there. Not right or wrong, just interesting and fulfilling, and actually, even when it's a shit ending like it was, pretty goddamn cool. Let's see where disappointing king antagonist in television. Yeah, definitely. So one of the examples I wanted to use is I'm a big Peaky Blinders, obviously. You guys have all seen that, right? So, Thomas Shelby. Now, this is an example of us getting a story halfway through as well, right? But we know that Thomas Shelby was a World War I, and we get a few flashbacks to this. So it's very important that we know that Thomas Shelby went through these very traumatic events, and he sacrificed for his country, and he went back to Birmingham, and he did the right thing for the Peaky, for the country, and then he was treated like trash, not appreciated, discarded, as many soldiers are. But he came back, and he did the best he could, so he is somebody that isn't appreciated, okay? And he also had a life-changing event. So none of us here, and if you are, please let me know in the chat if you were in World War I. We're in World War I. So, of course, how is that applicable to us? Well, it might be abstract, and I'm not saying it's the same plight, but my DJing years, this is what I transfer it to. This is just the primal connection of going through something that you think fundamentally changes you as a human being. Completely. 10 years of DJing in Detroit changed me as a human being. I look at myself as a different person. Some things better, some things worse. Had to correct a lot of things, right? So then you go back and you try to relive. Yeah, it wasn't World War I. It is not at all comparing those by any means, but you can understand that feeling of coming and trying to get back to what you were, or to get out of a funk, or to change yourself. It is simple, primal, and it is simple storytelling that you're going to relate to. It doesn't need to be detail to detail, right? It can just be that simple feeling of feeling like an outcast, or feeling like you're never going to be, like Thomas Shelby says, nothing but sadness. I'm never going to be in love like I was before I went to World War I, because now I'm a different person and all I have is sadness. All I can be is not miserable. So it's like a different measure of life as well. So it's very primalistic, and it's very applicable to anybody's life, and that's what good story does. Because again, your neurons are firing off, and you're engaging in that story, and it's bringing you to that place. It isn't a decision. You're not thinking that you're going to get a sword and ride on a dragon. If you are, then give me what you're on, and I'm with you. But it is, maybe that is your pet. Maybe that is, your journey in life and so forth. So, Let's see. A Phantom D saying, what's going on? By that logic, all you Cersei haters are Cersei. Well, I of course, Cersei sympathizer there. But of course, you can also understand why Cersei is somebody that if you separate and you go through her thread, this is called empathy. Story invokes empathy. You have an empathetic point of view, not a sympathetic. You don't support what they're doing. You understand what they're doing. That's why I don't get why people get so mad at Sansa. Sansa's doing what you would do in that isolated situation. And this is why a lot of people in this political climate, especially, you think you're going to change people's minds with facts? No, you need to tell them who you are, where you're coming from, what your plight in life is, and give them a story. Because a lot of people think that just information is the only thing distancing each other from one side to the other. No, nobody needs your facts. Nobody needs anything like that. I mean, some people could use some, but they want to hear another human being speak. So if you can't understand that Cersei and see where she went wrong and empathize with that, I even with the show, I don't get that. I don't get why, like, I don't know, but I mean, I'm not going to judge. It just is what it is. I see a big disconnect just with human emotion right there. Same thing when you go for people that are going to just go ahead and say that you have to like one character over another. No, you have to understand why one character feels they had to do what they had to do and the service in which they were providing for the story. When you have so many protagonists, they have to service the story in a certain way. Some do it more than others. Some are used more. Some are tossed away. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to do. But yeah, you should be able to understand Cersei. And also Jaime is another example of somebody that was used during this story to have a arc where you start to understand, but you don't really have a lot of change in Jaime before you start to like him. You just learn more about him. Again, this is an example of starting a story midway through a life and then giving us backstory for him. You understand that this is the deal that he's got. He's got this rotten deal. He did something that we all can pretty much agree needed to happen. I mean, killed the king, saved millions of people, blah, blah, blah. But the Night King brings Jaime to Winterfell in the show, right? And then he goes right back to Cersei. So that's another example of why they don't feel, and I'm not justifying it, but they don't feel that they need to actually do anything with the Night King, because the Night King is more of a plot device. It's more to get people like Jaime to go to Winterfell, do the right thing, and then Jaime's going to revert back to what Jaime's doing. Jaime's not a bad guy, but he loves Cersei. He's going to go do that. The Brienne thing they shouldn't have done. But that's the point. The Night King brings a lot of people to this head, bring a lot of people to this catalyst for change, and it shows people's true colors because it's pure evil. You couldn't have gotten Jaime to go and fight like against the Lannisters with just the Starks. No, it had to be pure evil. It had to be something like that. So yeah, not the best way to go about it, but you can see if you can individually look and separate these threads. I think it's a really interesting case study. And again, a difference between understanding story in a macro other than a micro sense. But of course, any discussions, it's good discussion. And Omar, I think I owe you money. I don't know if I know Bjorn's for sure coming back. Yeah, good job being Sunflower Beth. Shout out to all the good moms and dads out there that are doing good out there with their kids and putting in the work during this COVID time and making sure they're doing. Did you just say Latin homework? Wow, that's a hell of a thing. Yeah, so let's take it over here. So what we have when we're looking at our individual threads is, of course, not a example of usually what you'll do in a writing class is you'll do something like this. You'll do a message in the bottle, right? Like a creative course will usually have you start doing these like little workshops. So say, okay, somebody finds a message in a bottle. What does it mean? What is the message? Well, that's kind of a bullshit thread. You have to like say, okay, so Susan, who was an orphan or something, you got to give a backstory. You got to do that. Somebody finds out they're a king, like Jon Snow. It doesn't mean anything if it isn't connected to something that is more applicable to our real lives and we can actually go through and sympathize with. It's not just this journey, because think about Jon Snow's journey if he just wasn't a royal bastard, right? And it didn't click in with Ned's thread and everything that was going on with Ned and everything that he's keeping back and all the multiple reasons and the complex, paradoxes in which he's dealing with. But think about if it's just Jon Snow, who is legitimately Bessie's kid, right? Whoever Ned says it is. and he becomes the Lord Commander. That would be like, that's the hero's journey right there. And that's your difference between a story template and a story theory. You have a template, which will show you have to have your conflict here and your resolution here, and they'll go out of their comfort zone, learn a little something, come back, use those skills, apply them, come back, and adapt to the new world, or the new world will adapt to them. It is more of a Dramatica theory, which is something that there is a book on, and I did a video for True Detective that is that I really like, that how they use characters to more so go for the macro sense of society, and that is a story that's more about the culture than it is the individuals. I think A Song of Ice and Fire is not as much of a cultural discussion as people depict it to be. At least I haven't seen that. I'd have to see the last 2 books to really confirm that, but I don't think that we're really all that worried in a real sense about Westeros. We're worried about these individual characters. Sounds like a dick thing to say. I'm just saying it might be true. So Mackenzie, all right, go to the chat here. An expansive character's connection to a certain character is much different than having a story from a handful of characters. Easy to pick off your favorites. So following individual POV characters, like in A Song of Ice and Fire, might reinstate with some over others due to it, which is also, yeah, it is conflict, right? It is going up to a situation and saying, why is my character overtly doing this? What do they need to do? And what do they want to do? Because we as human beings only experience one internal life, our own. If you want to get into the bicameral mind, which this isn't a Westworld stream, so we won't, we really have no proof that anybody else is conscious other than oneself. So story, there's the old quote that's attributed to everybody, George R.R. Martin included, that a reader that reads 1,000 books lives 1,000 lives. Somebody that is illiterate, they don't say illiterate, but that's what they mean, lives one. You only live one. So it's an insight into eternal life, so like Mackenzie's saying here. So you have empathy for them, and you have to be able to keep that separate. And again, there's the old analogy that I like to use of, there might be a story about everybody locked in a room to oversimplify it. Not everybody's going to twist that doorknob. Somebody might find the key. Somebody might find the dresser that the key was in. You got the Hound, you got Barrack, you got all these people. They're all going to add to this. But I think that when we look at things, I think a lot of times even, especially as a content creator, I can speak to this. I can say, oh man, maybe I'm obsessing about this too much. But it's like, no, I think it's therapy. I think story is truly therapy. I think that there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of interesting studies of people, and there's a TED Talk that I can link, that there's this very sad but very also, I don't want to say interesting, but I'm just gonna say I have a lot of compassion for this lady. She lost her husband who committed suicide, and she wasn't a writer before this. She didn't know he was depressed. He ended up committing suicide. She went back, and she could not understand the significance of these events until she sat down and wrote it. She didn't write a journal. She wrote it like you would write a story, like a novel, right? Like a screenplay, a novel. She plotted out the events, and she tried to get inside his head, and she truly understood the story. And if you watch this TED Talk, let me link it for you guys. It's amazing, and you can go along with it, and she'll have you do it. I truly believe that story is a great form of therapy. And if you've ever met the people from A Song of Ice and Fire's community, Westworld's community, it's not a down, it's an up. I mean, everybody's went through some shit, especially the people that feel the need to make content out of it. Like it's been healing for us. So you find that community within fandom. You find that connection within fandom. That's because we've immersed ourselves in these people's internal lives because we want to understand. They say a child by the age 5 asks about 40,000 questions. I guess a parent's idea would be that's low, right? But they ask more things that are actually not illogical. A child's logic is almost deeper than adults because it's not skewed by cultural constraints and all these constructs in which we are molded by already through story. So they're more pure. It's like, why does the sun raise every day? Why is this like this? All these questions. It might be annoying for you parents out there. I'm not one, so fuck off, don't care. But yeah, a child's interest in the questions in which they will pose will tend to be far more frustrating, but far more enlightening than adults, because they're not skewed with like a preconception or disposition on things. So I really enjoy that as well. But when we get into stories like Westworld that simply talks about agency, I mean, we're dealing with an Orwellian issue right now when we're talking about the election. When we're talking about what's going on, about being controlled, or who's telling us what to do, who's not telling us what to do, who's lying, who's doing this. All these stories mold our politics and mold our cultures. In Asia, you have a less of a hero's journey and more of a macro sense of community. In here, you have more of the individual capitalistic, rise to power. You will see difference in origin stories. You'll see difference in actual creationalism, in the way in which, everybody makes up their stories for how they're made. That's why we threw the reason for God out. But yeah, I think that if you guys want to further understand story or further enjoy story, I gotta stop phrasing it like that. I really recommend these up here, because John Sherby is the best. Robert McKee is hilarious and fucking smart as hell. But you will truly get more out of fandom. You'll get more out of this type of stuff if you read these. I think that there is this idea that you will only read these books if you're trying to be a screenwriter or a novelist. Oh, no. I mean, I truly think a lot of these people that are trying to write novels should read these books. But yeah, no, it is nothing like that. Save the Cat, maybe that's more like that. Because that is literally like, your catalyst needs to happen. Your catalyst for change needs to happen on page 18 and so forth. Let's see. Alex Larson. So true, kids are little masters. It's yeah. Socratic method. So yeah, you have the idea too that the more stories that you consume, the more influenced you are by false ideas. So Alex, it seems like you know more about Socrates right there. But I do believe that Socrates was a little bit against story, wasn't he? Socrates a little bit against the telling of story. I think because of these very reasons, because of the influence in which they have, you have Aristotle with the very simplistic 3-act structure and so forth. Yeah, you since the beginning of time have people making sense out of things the only way they can with story. It's not writing down facts. It's not the way we consume information. Make your voice heard. What's going on, the Westerosi Ninja? I saw you did some politics the other day. Make your voice heard. Local politics are just as important as national ones. Go out and vote tomorrow. True enough, Milt. True enough. I saw that you actually were doing that stream the other day. So, like I said, this will show up as kind of a blah blah blah. A actual just hello to everybody since I've been gone for about 2 weeks, at least on my own channel. And what we have going on in Costume Co's reminded me of that. Hey, Heidi. Heidi's had a lot of great interviews up there in the land of always winter. You told me it snowed in Canada. I said, yeah, you live in a fucking snow globe. Of course it snowed. Got 2 Canadians in the chat right now. So there's 5 other Canadians somewhere doing something. But yeah, we are going to have our Brave New World, which is on Peacock TV, which I want to give a big shout out to Johnny, who's in the chat, House of Conqueror. He's been working on the scripts. If you Patreon and support creativity for $3 a month, you can see those scripts. And we have some more polished videos that'll be coming out. Had to get out of a little funk and have had real work in life things to deal with. But yeah, we have a good amount of content that's coming. I have Gains of London, which is a fantastic show. I liked it a lot more than I am liking it right now. It's taken a little bit of a dive, but I'm very excited because we're going to have James Hancock, who is a fantastic content creator. I hooked up with him, and we're definitely going to do a live stream around next week whenever the finale comes out. We are going to be doing a finale for the Gains of London. If you're a Peaky Blinders fan, check that shit out. It's pretty damn good. Brave New World, I enjoyed immensely because it's not only something that we spent just months on when Westworld Season 2 was happening, to talk about what was happening with Aldous Huxley's story that is happening with Westworld, because everybody's like, "Ooh, I got Westworld vibes." It's like, yeah, I've been telling you, and nobody watched, that this is Westworld. Aldous Huxley predicted it in 1931. Like, this is the story, and it's got it's got a lot of good actors from Game of Thrones, and it's got a fantastic. We have a 1.5 scripts right now, both from House of the Conqueror. Fantastic writer. Hire him. He's good. That we'll be doing that are actually going to be polished. The one will be out this week. And speaking of Patreons right there, Morley, thank you so much. Sending love and appreciation to you and all your fans. Thank you so much. And Omar, would John Sherby be the go-to, the ones you recommend? Yes, John Sherby would be, if you're looking to actually dissect story. like I know you do, Omar. Yeah, John Truby's the first one. And then I'd go Robert McKay. Story, not dialogue. If you're looking to write something, meaning if you're looking to write a screenplay or a novel, go to dialogue after. But I would go John Truby, then I would go to Robert McKay, story, and then I'd go to story genius, and then the science of storytelling in that order. Dialogue is only really if you're looking to write yourself. So it's not really, it's interesting though. It's not like they're not that expensive. So, and use my link below. Fantastic. Yes, and thank you, Westerosi Ninja. Feel free to, I think I gave you a wrench, so put it there. Sorry to hear that, Justin. I'm there for your Brave New World. Yeah, we got to do something out of Heidi. I think it's fantastic. I think that there's flaws with it, but it's definitely one of those new shows that is just kind of falling a little bit under the radar because of what premiered 4 months ago. But with all these new streaming networks, it's only going to get more saturated people before it's more condensed. That's just the way to go, because this is not a brick and mortar business. This is not a distribution that needs to happen through any medium other than their own streaming services. So Netflix is getting picked apart, right? Hulu's getting picked apart. Disney is going to run their own. I mean, every studio is going to have, you're going to literally have like a Fox Spotlight or Searchlight streaming service before it's all said and done, sadly. And then I think that you'll be in a little bit of danger of it being a little bit of a monopoly after that. But it's only going to get more and more scattered. Everybody's going to have their own streaming services while, and it's getting very frustrating, isn't it? I think we can all agree. But yeah, it was on the Peacock network. Now there is some benefits to that, meaning the content can be a little bit more raw, right? Brave New World is a very, very raw. I would argue borderline too raw. When it comes, it's almost True Blood layers of nudity there. So let's see. It's not getting a season 2. Oh, see, breaking news. Costume Co. Yeah, it's not getting a season 2. That's shitty. Yeah, I wonder what they're. Well, it's probably, maybe they should have put it on TV, or maybe they shouldn't have started just like Star Trek did, or CBS did with Star Trek and all that. Maybe they should stop being like money hungry bastards, like overtly. I mean, be greedy, but be greedy like, like we're talking about internal story and then what you project here. So, be a shitbag inside and on the outside. Jess, you still need to get Peacock. Yeah, I cannot really recommend to pay for that, right? Like, I mean, I can't justify it. How many streaming services, if you add it up, if you had to get HBO Go, and you got to get Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and then you got to pick CBS, NBC. I mean, come on, you're over $100. I mean, like, it's crazy. It's in the internet. They know the internet's a thing because it's on it. And they know that pirating's extremely easy to do. And I want to support creativity because I like when people support mine. Thank you again, Morley. You're a fantastic person. But I don't really want to justify also that we need to pay for it. Like, you are literally going to get to a point, it seems, where we're going to watch like half of a 20-minute like episodic comedy, and it'll be on one streaming service, and then it'll go to another that you got to pay $12.99 for. It's getting to be bullshit. So they need to get it together. Which they will, and then I fear it's just going to be like this big monopoly that's probably going to be ran by the mouse. Gangs of London is a show I've been meaning to watch. 2 great actors, Adrian Bauer and Joe Colt. Yeah, Joe Colt, definitely. Just Amazon, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Netflix, and HBO are mine. Those are what I pay for. I pay for Netflix, Amazon, and I pay for HBO. And I don't know if HBO is going to start to separate, because right now, if you have HBO Max, you definitely have HBO regular, like proper. Because it's kind of like bullshit. They just did put the Rick and Morty season 4 yesterday on, which is kind of cool. But like, that's like such a overt, like, just fuck you, right? By HBO. They're like, hey, we made another HBO. I'm like, why? Like, what did you need to do that you couldn't do under the, trademark HBO LLC? Like, what did you need to do? There's nothing. We want more money. Fuck you, Justin. Like, so it's like, man, once you do that, like The Undoing's decent. I didn't see the newest episode last night, but as far as I can tell, my HBO Max gets me into my HBO proper for right now. Let's see. Gangs of London's really good. It started really good. It's kind of lost me. I'm really excited to go over it with James Hancock. I can't recommend. Let me link him. I can't recommend this guy enough. He's one of the more versatile content creators. Like, if you want like episodic reviews of like a wide variety of shows, this guy is really on ball, and I gotta love his fucking work ethic, and he just really knows his stuff, and he's a filmmaker himself too. So let's see, let me put him in. So we're definitely going to do the finale of it. So he has been covering it more than I have. So that's his channel right there. He's a good guy. So let's see. Damn, the show could have been epic if it had a second season. That's kind of around decision by legs. Yeah, you got to wonder who's making those types of decisions right there, because it's like, man, because if you are like, what was the big selling point of Peacock? What was it? Was it Brave New World? Like, what else? I know there's other shit on there, but it's like you got to have your launch series, like, because that's what they're gonna do with HBO. Like, as soon as Westworld comes back, or the House of the Dragon specifically comes out, I imagine that's when they'll separate officially HBO proper. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see like I don't understand how I'm not complaining, but I get both with one membership right now. I'm assuming that's going to stop. Correct me if I'm wrong. I hope I am, but I just don't see why they would have it separated at all. I don't know why it is the way it is now, but I imagine that once you have a actual staple series that you have a launch with, meaning like a hard launch, like the House of the Dragon, then they will do opposing shows. So it's like, oh, you can have the House of the Dragon with HBO, but you can't have Westworld unless you get HBO Max, right? Like, that's the only way to, which is just overtly bullshit. By all means, like, I don't get how you fucking justify that shit. Like, I just don't get it. It is what it is. Everybody's got to make money, but it is what it is. You know, Disney's always been very smart with the way they distribute their content. You know, like, they never, even back in the day, I remember my mom used to love their like movies, so she still does. But she would like go and tell me, oh, Target. I worked at Target when I was like 18. And she's like, oh, the Disney's like releasing Beauty and the Beast or something like that. Like, they would do like just like isolated releases, meaning they would always withheld their content, which was smart, because then when they put it out, they charge up the ass for it. Like, I mean, they are fucking vicious, but they're smart as far as they actually their business model. And I do believe they are doing theaters that are going to be Disney only as well, which is very interesting, because they still see the value in the market of the theatrical release of a film, and then doing spin-offs are the reselling or distributing of those properties. So Disney, as much as I think they're bastards, you gotta admire them. You just gotta admire them a little bit. Let's see. The Mandalorian, but yeah, their back catalog is fantastic. Omar right here. Show I would recommend is Barbarians on Netflix, set in Germania. Yeah, I started that, Omar, and I can't. That is a time in which I am just very, very much interested in, and I've done a lot of research, and I love, you know, the time of Octavian. I love the time of Tiberius. You know, I love the turn of the century stuff right there. But I gotta say, that series falls a little short for me. It falls a little short. I think they could have done a little better. But I definitely recommend everybody tries it out. It's Barbarians, and it's on Netflix. It's a show like Dark that has been dubbed. You know, I believe it was made in. So definitely check it out, especially if you're like thirsty for. So, Justin, I can't speak highly enough of your continuous use of words. Shit and fucking. Yeah, I'm sorry. But, well, you know, there's a study somewhere that says only intelligent people cuss. So, you know, I do selective research when it comes to my cognitive ability there. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, you gotta get it. You gotta get by. But yeah, I get a little bit. Yeah, Dark is a fantastic show. Dark is one of those shows that I feel they stumbled upon, like, the perfect way to do time travel. Like, nobody's ever done it right. And then they had two series. They had a procedural, which is your police drama, right? And then they had a time travel story. Netflix approached them on spec, the creators of Dark. This is a true story. And they said, hey, would you do something for us? And they said, yeah, well, we're going to do two shows. I guess we could just make it one for you. And they made like the Jesus baby. They made like this, like, they made like this magnificent thing. Like and it seems like it was so nonchalant. It's like they were smoking a cigarette on the corner and they're like, hey, you want to get time travel? Right there? Yeah, we got two shows. We'll mash them together, which sounds like a messy way. Like, and not that, you know, none of the books that I got right here would, like, you know, ever recommend that, but they fucking nailed it. The one thing I like about Story Genius also, though, is how candid she is about people that just can write. And I'm not one of them. It's not a pompous, it's not a brag whatsoever, but it is true. she talks about people like, either go with Blake Snyder save the cat, make this happen on page 12, make this happen. It's very, very, stringent, rigid way of doing things. And then the people that just like fucking, like the Hemingways of the world that just get drunk and make miracles happen. I believe that the creators of Dark I can't speak to their drinking because I don't know them, but I can speak to the nonchalant way in which they said, hey, nobody's ever gotten time travel right and deal with that paradox in such a sensible, entertaining, fucking way. We got 2 shows, we'll throw some shit together. It's like, they got like sloppy joes and they had tacos one night, so they mix them together. They're like, here's a Tex-Mex buffet for you, it'll work out. They're best show ever, best time travel show ever, very good. And it appeals to an American audience. It's not, let's face it, not all that accepting of dubbed material. We're pretty we're pretty stuck on our one language over here, and I'm not looking to have time to be able to learn Latin, even though I wish I could. Adominus extras or that. I know Sunflower Beth is teaching some Latin over there. Not all of us can be so refined. Considering it's only 6 episodes, I think it's done a good job, more historically accurate than most shows in terms of clothing, armor. Yeah. I see a lot of complaints that there is a female protagonist that's doing a lot of shit that probably wouldn't go down in that time period. That's not really my axe to grind there. I would say it's just a little bit of a silly plot thread that I saw as the main thread for the first episode. I thought that, like, the sneaking into the camp and all that felt a little Spartacus-y, Star Spartacus, which turned out to be a pretty damn good show in my opinion. So I'll finish it up. I had high hopes for it. I really did. I don't know what I was hoping for. It might be unrealistic. It's not a crap show by any means. It just seems like it got a little bit like satirical, got a little bit out there for me right away. But I also really love that period, and I'm like a fucking nerd that sits around and watches. And I'm sure you're far more educated than I am on it, Omar. But so if Omar can like it, that's my rule. You can like it because Omar's no dummy. So yeah, I actually think you should take his advice on it now. But check it out. Let's see. My expo. Sunflower Beth I'm watching, hoping to cover in a sense of comparison show or the costumes. Oh yeah, that's definitely Heidi's area right there. Well, it's good to see though. It's good to see that we're having things made in the actual cultural center of which the story derives from. You know what I mean? Like the tribes. I noticed that right away. That every single tribe. It wasn't just like, oh, okay, so we've got, Vercingetorix and we'll do this, blah, 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 like, in name one. No, they went through and they showed the inner turmoil. So they do handle that well because that is their history. They understand it better. So they should be the people doing it, right? Like, they should be the people. I guess that's technically. No, it's Jeremy because it happens in the forest, blah blah blah. Losing my train of thought there. Yeah, I think that it's good to see that we are finally getting more accepting of shows that aren't necessarily made in California, because the history of California is literally, hey, there might be some gold here, hey, there's no gold here, let's make movies here, and that's about it. So yeah, like the cultural centers of this folklore, of this actual history, should probably derive from its place of conception. Period piece. Oh, I love it. Anything. I mean, I love Victoria. I've watched Rain, and Rain might be one of the dirt shows of the century. Rain might be just complete trash, in my opinion. I think it is. I mean, but I've still watched it. It's terrible. Still watched it. So, the Netflix series had me going as far as anticipation. So I think that when I watched it, I was a little too hyped up for it, and then it fell short. I set myself up to fail, but Victoria is a good series, definitely. For anybody that likes Victorian England, I don't know how it holds up for costume standards, so you'd have to ask Heidi. That's the advantage of the fandom there. And even like shows, like I said, like I kind of shit on Spartacus, but actually I was looking to rewatch that again. Spartacus has actually got a decent amount of historical accuracy for it, for what they know about the Ludus and about the actual players that were involved. And they do what they can. It gets a little over sexualized, which would be my complaint about Brave New World to an extent. But besides that, I mean, pretty solid series. You can definitely ride that line. That's why, again, story, we don't look at it in a sense of its education or that important for us culturally or just as a survival mechanism, because it doesn't feel bad, right? It feels like it's a luxury because it is. We consume it to relax. So it's like we're not doing homework. we're enjoying it, but the same way you eat a steak and it tastes good, because genetically we've evolved to live off of story, and there's no way we could, because it doesn't make sense. Back in the day, you used to have to go and find your food, kill it, cook it, and just survive. It didn't make sense for them to sit around a campfire and burn more calories eating, or like telling stories, but they did anyways, and those are the people that survive. So story works. The only thing we have that lets us understand others' internal experiences. And that's when I see debates online, and I see a lot of people that get very polarizing in their opinions about certain, aspects of Game of Thrones, especially. And, they start hating on certain people that support certain aspects that they don't. I find that to be a little foolish, and you always get the good with the bad. I'm not trying to preach, but it's like, please, if you can't understand like why Sansa did what she did, even within like the show's shitty ending, like, come on, you don't have a general idea of how story works. You don't have to support it, but you have to understand that that's what that person probably would do. I think that actually makes sense. And the rest is what it is. You don't have to hate somebody else to be right. You ain't gotta prove somebody else wrong for you to be right? So let's see. I like to analyze even steak. Hey, you want to know what? You ever eat with somebody like that tells you how long they cooked everything on the barbecue for? I live in North Carolina, and I'm down here. Where he's like telling me about the fucking methodology in which they cooked. I don't care. Serve it up. But there you go. I think his music being included. Yeah, no, it definitely is. Music, it's one of those things. I've been looking to get somebody on that could break down how story is told through music, throughout time, not just contemporary times, but history of anything in which we do convey a message with. I mean, a song can mean so many different things. I was a DJ for 10 years. It means something different from a year to year to the person that made it, to the people that listen to it. It's subjective and very fast. And I have it tattooed on me. Better enjoy it a little bit. Yeah, Omar, you gotta get a channel. You gotta get a channel, brother. Period Piece, which is a much what? Yeah, the Medici. That I knew I was forgetting one. That is a good one, and that's got the lead. I believe he was in Cursed. Mackenzie has some Cursed videos. He was in that werewolf series on MTV, but he's a fantastic actor. He took over after Richard Madison. In the second season, he plays Giuliano, I believe. Medici. I don't know the actor's name, handsome fella. But the Medici is actually pretty damn good. It's got Sean Bean in it. It has Richard Madsen in the first season of it. It's pretty damn good. I love Florentine politics and history, and very interesting. I love the time of the city-states and the Italian Wars. Let's see. So yeah, I think that let me see. Let me actually, because I did want to link some of these to you guys, but I just really want to reinforce that we will be coming back with some good videos for you guys. We definitely have the finale for Gaines of London with James Hancock, which I'm honored to have on, and I'm honored to have the script for the first Brave New World. We're doing it in 2 videos. That will go over Brave New World. I'm sad to hear, that's kind of devastating that it isn't going to be coming back, but I highly suggest that you watch the 2 videos for obvious reasons, but also because if you like Westworld, you're gonna like season 1 of Brave New World. I'm not saying it's a 10 out of 10, but it's a very interesting story, and also Aldous Huxley, a genius, but that's a hard read. It's a tough read. It's a slog. It's a very interesting and very intelligent book that was way ahead of its time, but it doesn't read all that well. I don't know. I'm trying to say it in a nice way, but yeah, it doesn't necessarily go down the hatch too. It's a little bit drawn out. It's a little dry. Very, very British is what it is. So let's see. But yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming up. Let's see. And yeah, we have Vikings. I don't know. Vikings should be coming back. I don't know if it's going to be in December. Mackenzie might know that better than I. Let's see. But let me link all of these authors. So the first one will be Lisa. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and give the Audible link next. A very good deal. Trust me. And between me and you guys don't need to keep your subscription. So yeah, we got Brave New World. We got some House of Dragon streams coming back in the next month or so. But lots of exciting stuff. And I can't wait for Vikings. I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. one way or another. I just love the hell out of Vikings. If I've watched Reign, I've watched myself some Vikings. So I really enjoy that fandom as well. And we will get back to it. So also, and yeah, check out, because I know that Mackenzie will be launching a new channel, because I think the algorithm gave you the cold shoulder. And I think that you guys should all subscribe to Mackenzie and follow her when she goes to her new channel for sure, because it's definitely worth something to check it out. And I know she'll be transitioning. Help her think of a new name. We got to push you, Mackenzie, to get that going, because you keep making fantastic content in the algorithm. I can't find you if I type in your URL like straight. So it is not favoring you. The SEO has rendered you no bueno there. So it is not. All right, so this will be the link right here. Can't thank you guys enough for stopping by. The Brave New World will be coming out this week, no matter what, because Johnny put too much damn work into that script not to do it. And I'm going to go ahead and talk to Peacock TV and see what the hell is wrong with them, because that's a bunch of bullcrap. What? Oh, man, that's way too long of a link. It's in the description. I'm not going to shill. I'm actually not going to shill. Yeah. Let's see. Open notes app to remember the new bench shows. No idea what's happening. Yeah, usually it's released out. Yeah, no, they haven't got one. I think that Mackenzie, what'd you say for it? I think that it's going to be, because they've moved up Valhalla, guys. That's important to take note of, I guess, as a final note. A little redundant, but yeah, Valhalla has definitely moved up, meaning that, the show that is going to work as a spin-off per se, it has been moved up. The filming has been moved up to that. So I don't think it's being held back by any means. I don't think that's correct. I think that it'll be out in February by the latest. I think that it usually comes out in December. I could be wrong though. Their trailers have been in sync with what they've done in the years past. So also congratulations to Catherine Winnick, not only to be my future wife, but also because she won a Canadian woman's directing. It's like a award. It's a Canadian award, but it's it's an award, and it's for her directorial debut in Vikings for the episode in which she directed, and it was like a female achievement award or something they got going on over in Canada. She should win a fucking Oscar. I don't care if they don't cover fucking cable TV. She should win one. So I can't thank you guys enough. Make sure to support creativity and stop back by, and we will have some actual polished videos for you. And the Gains of London finale after stream will be here. I love you guys. Be safe, be healthy, go and vote, do what you think is right, and just stay right.